All right, thanks, Joey. Well, time now for a check of your top stories. And we start today with the latest in Ukraine. More than 2% of Ukraine's population has now fled the country as Russia makes progress in its invasion. Officials are looking into possible war crimes and fear Russia is ramping up its weaponry. CBS's Lauren Podesta is at the United Nations, where France is drafting a resolution on humanitarian access.
The United Nations says 1 million refugees have fled Ukraine in the past week. Some of them ended up here in Berlin, where volunteers are offering shelter and supplies.
I had to get out from this hell, and now I'm here. I hope I'm in a safe place.
Back in Ukraine, authorities say more than 2,000 civilians have been killed.
Russian strikes are hitting schools, hospitals.
The prosecutor of the International Criminal Court announced an investigation into Russia's possible war crimes and crimes against humanity.
We're keeping the door open to a diplomatic way forward. That's going to be very hard to happen without military de-escalation.
Yesterday, the United Nations General Assembly voted to condemn Russia's actions. The U.S. ambassador said Russia is preparing to increase the brutality of its campaign.
We've seen videos of Russian forces moving exceptionally lethal weaponry into Ukraine. That includes cluster munitions and vacuum bombs, which are banned under the Geneva Convention.
Russia has been caught off guard by the might of Ukraine's resistance, like this civilian blockade, preventing troops from taking a nuclear power plant.
When history of this era is written, Ukraine will have left Russia weaker and the rest of the world stronger.
But while Russian troops in some areas appear to be stalled, officials say they have captured a port in southern Ukraine.
And in a videotaped address posted to Facebook overnight, President Zelensky of Ukraine called on Ukrainians to keep up the resistance. He also said Russian soldiers are, quote, confused children, end quote, who are being used by their government. And switching gears now, Wednesday, Puerto Rico celebrated its 105th anniversary of U.S. citizenship. Puerto Rico's congressional president, commissioner, and Puerto Rico's governor took this opportunity at the Capitol to push for statehood.
And we are celebrating today that U.S. citizenship as proud Americans, proud people born in Puerto Rico, but also requesting and asking Congress to fulfill the desire and the aspiration of equality for the people on the island.
Statehood is our chosen path to equality, and we will fight for it until we achieve it.
Puerto Ricans voted back in 2020 to become the next U.S. state, but so far Congress hasn't moved forward with the idea. We asked resident Commissioner Jennifer Gonzalez-Colon how hopeful she is that Congress will finally move forward on the question of statehood. She told us she's confident that Congress will grant Puerto Rico's wishes. If statehood is granted, Puerto Ricans will be allowed to vote in presidential elections and receive the same equal benefits and Medicaid and supplemental security income like other U.S. citizens. In the meantime, low-cost carrier Spirit Airlines has launched another new route to Puerto Rico, this time to the island's second city. According to the Caribbean Journal, the airline has started nonstop service between Orlando, Florida, and Ponce. It's another boost for a city that continues to grow as both a tourism and investment destination. The new service is operating daily between Orlando International Airport and Ponce's International Airport. Ponce becomes the newest destination in Puerto Rico for Spirit Airlines, joining San Juan. The carrier now operates 8 nonstop routes between Florida and Puerto Rico, and in April, the Caribbean Journal reports Spirit will add another new route to the island with planned service between Aguadilla and Philadelphia kicking off on April 20th. In the meantime, U.S. Customs and Border Protection sees 7 pre-Columbian artifacts found among passengers arriving in Puerto Rico. Our Francis Felix is joining us now with the details.
Customs and Borders Protection and Homeland Security investigations made a handout to the Consulate of the Dominican Republic of 7 pre-Columbian artifacts. These items were recovered after several incidents with passengers that arrived into San Juan and Mayagüez from the sister republic. On the month of February, the Consul of the Dominican Republic in Puerto Rico Opinio Diaz received these artifacts. The archaeologists of the Institute of Puerto Rican Culture conclude were made by the indigenous Taino natives who populate the Caribbean during pre-Columbian times.
U.S. Customs and Border Protection Field Operations officers both in San Juan and in Mayagüez recovered these items of cultural significance from passengers. One of the passengers came in on the ferry when this ferry was operating out of Mayagüez, and the other two passengers came into San Juan from the Dominican Republic. These items were found within their luggage, and CBP assumes that an item of cultural significance that's brought into the country or imported into the country, the person has to have some sort of export permit to take that item into the country, or at least a certificate or any documentation that proves that they have the legitimate claim over that item.
What is the responsibility for Customs and Borders?
Well, actually, our responsibility is to inspect that the legitimate flow of people and goods come through our, come into our ports of entry, and make sure that the people who try to bring legitimate items into the country are able to, follow U.S. law in the process of bringing or importing items into the country. We seize weapons, we seize different products that violate U.S. laws, and we make sure that the items that come over, the persons have the legitimate responsibility to bring them into the country.
Customs and Borders make clear that they will continue working with the state and federal agencies to ensure the secure of historical objects, like the ones recovered, for those who want to profit on theft of cultural property. From Miramar, Puerto Rico, Frances Felix.
All right, thanks so much, Francis. In the meantime, the COVID-19 curfew in Belize has been lifted after almost 2 years of curfews triggered by increasing COVID case numbers. Belizeans from March 1st enjoyed roaming free well past the midnight hour. The Prime Minister there, in a national address on Monday night, said that the cabinet has decided that the time has come to restore personal and economic freedoms while encouraging everyone to act responsibly. In addition to lifting the curfew, the Prime Minister also announced that citizens are no longer required to wear face masks outside. Masks must still be worn, however, on public transportation and for gathering indoors or at a closed space. People entering government buildings, churches, and supermarkets, as well as those attending funerals or weddings, will still be required to wear a face covering. The Prime Minister explained that Belize is moving towards a return to normalcy.
Now that we've seen with the Omicron variant that has spread pretty much across the entire country, it's more like a bad flu. And we believe that we need to now deal on the personal freedoms of people, opening up businesses. A lot of people have been suffering, especially the entertainment business, the restaurants that have been really under a lot of stress. And we need to move now the full responsibility from the state to the individual. We've done our part. Now you as a citizen need to be able to be responsible for yourself. Get vaccinated. And if you don't feel safe, then wear a mask. We're relaxing most everything. And we're using the month of March, and by April 1st, we're going to be relaxing everything. But insisting on the vaccination, that people need to get vaccinated. We're insisting if you're going to leave the country, you must be vaccinated.